Buongiorno, come stai? Today we're going to have a look at yet another Italian pen, and this is the Aurora Il Viaggo Secreto in Italia Volterra, which is part of a series of pens they're doing, sort of honoring different cities in Italy. Not sort of, they're honoring different cities in Italy. It's a limited edition of 888 pens. I was lent this by Joost Appelboom, thank you for that. I'm going to cover the parts of the pen. I'll tell you a little bit about the pen, I'll do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like about it and what I don't like about it. And that's pretty much it, isn't it? So, let's get started. Okay, let's continue with the Aurora Il Viaggo Secreto in Italia Volterra. I hope, is it Viaggio or Viaggo? No, it's no H. It's Viaggio. Is that right? Correct me, please. Here we have other entries for things. And this is the box. I think it's a very attractive box. Of all the pen boxes out there, I do think this one is very pretty. It's very nicely done, it's very glossy, and I do like the illustration a lot. It's I don't know, it really stood out to me. So here we have this pen, sorry, the box, nice outer sleeve, and then a large box in there, also in here, and it's a little bit of a pain to remove, but also in there is a special ink. Now, because I don't get to keep this pen, I have left that ink nice and sealed, and then try to have to get it back in the box. Okay, there we go. Now we have this more traditional Aurora box, and then we have this sort of coffin in there, very, very shiny. We have a bookmark, which I think is very nice. We have a little pen condom. We have the bed of the pen, Pennino Oro Massiccio, 18 karat solid gold. Probably butchered that. We have Il segno di un sogno, and we have a rather thick booklet with information about the brand. Very colorful, very nice. Okay, let's try to more or less put this back together. Ugh. And oh, there we go. Aurora. So the pen we have before us, and I will zoom in, is this. Here you can see it right next to a Pilot Metropolitan. This isn't the Aurora. If you don't mind, I'm not going to say Il Viaggo Secreto in Italia Volterra all the time. I'll just call it the Volterra. This is a limited edition, 888 pens made. This happens to be number 470. It'll be on the website, so if the number 470 means something to you, you can purchase it. It could be yours today. I'm so sorry. You have extra fine, medium, broad, 18 karat nibs. You also have double broad, oblique medium, oblique broad, stub and italic broads for 65 euros extra. And you have the gotcha nib in extra fine or fine. That is available as well. That is Aurora's in-house flex nib. Okay, so this pen is, hence the name, A Secret Journey to Italy. I do really like what they're trying to do. They're trying to show you different cities in Italy, which I think is quite charming. And in this case, the city is Volterra, which is known for its Etruscan center, but also quite famous for the extraction and processing of alabaster, hence the color of the pen. What is very fascinating, and what I now realize I forgot to do, but what I will check before I get rid of this pen again, is apparently it comes with a QR code which you can scan, and then you get to hear the city. So I wasn't quite sure from the description if that means music from the area, or if that means actual sort of soundscape, city sounds. But I will say, I think that is very, very cool. That's not something I've seen before in other pens that honor a certain city, which certainly exists. Think of a Visconti Manhattan or these kinds of things. So I think that's very cool. You also get a watercolored bookmark, as you've seen, in an ink bottle. And for all this joy, you will pay €652.89. And then depending on the nib, that could be a little more. So now we have all that out of the way, let's talk about the pen, parts of the pen here. So it's a lovely pen. It's, for all intents and purposes, yet another Aurora 88, because it is. Nice finial on top. I do really like this material. Clip, rose gold, center band, and this ring, rose gold. Aurora on the center band and made in Italy on the other side. Barrel tapers down slowly, and then here we have the piston turning knob. Now, I put in, on purpose, washable blue ink, because you can already see this ink through it. I'm not saying the pen is stained. I'm assuming it will not be because it's washable blue, but I can't wait to clean this out so it can go to another owner. After all, this kind of material screams "I will stain" to me. I could be wrong, but it's very whitish. Okay, cap unscrews oddly. I'll come back to that in likes and dislikes. And it also aerosolizes ink because of the way it seems to be constructed. Let me just grab a tissue. My hands are already in bad shape with all the reviews and ink. So this is an issue. It's even in the threads. Again, it's a washable blue. This will come out, but I don't understand why. Let me just also quickly clean this out and continue talking. I don't quite understand why this is so weird. Like at this point it kind of gets stuck and then you really need to give it a nudge, but the cap will just, it's a little weird, especially in a pen that is this expensive. I would expect a little more. Okay, section tapers down, quite a wide flare out, and then we have that very famous Aurora nib shape. Aurora, one of the companies that still makes nibs in-house, so that I think is very cool. This is a medium nib. It is 18K and it is rose gold, and it has an ebonite feed, which is very nice. What else can I say about this? Not an awful lot, I think. Oh, it has an ink window. Yeah, I knew there was something else I wanted to point out. It has an ink window, two little rose gold rings again. So pretty nice. Pretty nice. Now I need to write with it. Oh, and of course I should point out the clip is really tight and the pen does post, and then you do have a pretty nice size of pen, because without it, it's the Aurora 88s. They're not the largest pens. I think it's a very comfortable size for most people though. Okay, I'll zoom out a bit. Aurora nibs, known for their feedback. This is a type of nib that has quite a bit of feedback, and this is no exception. I wouldn't call it scratchy because I don't find it an unpleasant feedback, but you might be able to hear it. The microphone typically picks up this kind of frequency quite strongly. But having said that, there is 100% feedback. Like it's not a. Don't expect a glossy, smooth writer. There will be feedback, and you will feel it clearly as you write with it. Now, some people really like that, right? And again, that is kind of an Aurora trademark. So I mean, that's kind of what you get. Okay. Writing, nice and wet. I will say that it's a nice nib, fairly juicy. Line variation is always very careful. You can get some out. It's not a flex nib. If you want flex, buy that gotcha nib, and then you will get flex. I don't find it the widest of medium nibs. I find it on the finer end of things. On this paper, it's come out a little broader, but I wrote this with it on. This is actually the Appelboom notebooks that I use to take my notes for the reviews. And on this paper, which is a bit more absorbent, you get a much finer line, I feel. Okay, reverse writing was the last test we were doing. You get something even finer, but it does keep going. It is certainly a bit scratchier, but it keeps going. So, having said all this, I think we need to discuss what I like and what I don't like about the pen. Let's do that next. What do I like? What do I not like about this pen? There are a couple of things I really like. It's a nice pen. I think the material is very attractive. It has some nice chatoyance. It certainly reminds me of alabaster. It's well chosen. It's attractive. It's refined. I like the rose gold trim. I think it works very well in this particular pen. So I think all of that is really, really nice. I also like that it's a piston filler. Just a fun filling system. Also the Aurora pistons I've always found very good, very reliable. Just nice. There is a thing, I think, with them where they have a little sort of extra compartment for ink so that when you run out you still have a little bit of ink left, that kind of stuff. So I think all that is nice. It's also a fun size. It's by no means huge, but I think this is a size that works well for a lot of people. A very comfortable section, an ink window, which is great. Posts if you want something a little bit bigger, and a very nice nib. Yes, there is that feedback, but that's part of Aurora. Just like Sailor nibs have a certain level of feedback, Aurora nibs also have a certain level of feedback. And what I really like is that Aurora still makes their nibs in-house. To me, it adds a little bit to the pen when you know that the nib is not yet another stock Jowo or Bock nib. Nice as those nibs are, but it's just a little step above that the company makes their own nibs, I think. Would certainly not be a deal breaker for me if companies did not, but anyway, there you have it. Things I don't like about it so much. Well, basically it's just another Aurora 88. There are a lot of 88s out. They keep releasing new 88s. They're just different finishes of the same pen. In a way that's very smart, because it makes them very collectible. But I think this is an eternal debate of, should pen companies innovate and come up with completely new models, or should they just stick to their models that work really well and keep releasing them in new finishes? I would love to see more new models, but I mean, that's easy for me to say. I don't have to design them. So I always find that a difficult debate. Let me know what you think, please, in the comments about that debate. Limited, so that's always fun. Also means the price goes up. 600, what was it? 650 euros, and then 65 if you want a special nib extra. So it's certainly not cheap. Yes, it's a gold nib, piston filler, limited edition, but I mean, you're getting highly up there, right, at this price. But of course that is a relatively subjective thing. For some people this is pocket change, so I mean I'll leave that as it is, but I think for most people it's an expensive pen. The biggest issue I had with it is I love how complete the package is, with the ink, special ink, with the bookmark, with that QR code so you can listen to the city. I think all this is tremendous fun. My biggest issue is that the cap is strange, so I'm not sure if there will actually be discoloration in the material when it's filled. Right now I've used a washable blue ink, so that should be okay, but I can certainly see how with very saturated inks it might discolor a bit. I haven't verified that though, so I'll leave that part. My biggest issue is that the cap is just weird. You unscrew it, it's now fully unscrewed, and as you can see nothing happens. And here too, nothing happens. The cap is too tight. And I find that weird. So when you have to, when you cap it, you really need to push it in there. And I'm not really exaggerating. It really takes a bit of a push. and that makes me nervous. Pushing a nib towards something with the idea that nibs can actually bend out of shape, I find it a little worrisome, and I'm certainly not advocating for a super loose cap, but I mean, this feels maybe a bit too tight to me. The bigger issue with that is that because of that pushing and pulling, almost invariably I have ended up with ink on the inside of the cap, which then gets onto the section. Even now, you may be able to see it, there is some ink in the threads. This is a problem, because every time you uncap the pen you may have ink on your hands. If that is fine with you, for some people it is, you just carry a little cloth or a tissue, it's fine. But you know, there are certain settings where that could be a little embarrassing. If you're in a business meeting, you pull this out, there's ink everywhere. So I'm sure if you have a handy person in your area, they might be able to maybe do something about it. But everything functions. I wouldn't call that a deal breaker from that perspective, but it is strange that it is so tight. I'm not sure if it's just this one or if they're all like that. Anyway, that's what I have. A very kind thank you to Joost for lending me the pen. I really appreciate it. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye.